Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. It's evaluation day. It's time to do a deep dive into some of our players that maybe have a ton of spotlight or haven't had enough at all. We're going to talk about them all today.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, we got a lot of stuff to get into today. And when I mean a lot, me and Carter were a little bit panicky because we thought this might be a 4-hour episode. But we're going to try to condense it a little bit for you guys because that is nuts. Before we get into all of that, we noticed that like 72% of you guys aren't subscribed. You've been killing it. A lot of you have been subscribing. But if you're watching our videos anyway, drop a subscription for us. It keeps us at the top of your page. You can do that here on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter, Braden 5 Wasco, Carter First 2. And you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. I almost mixed those two up there. And then, like we've been saying, we're going to Toronto May 17th to the 20th. We're going to be doing so much content down there. We're going to live stream on the Saturday, the 18th post game. We're going to need a little bit of time to get back from the ballpark back to our hotel room, but we'll try to get it started as soon as possible. We're going down there with Jarvis and Justin. So there'll be the four of us on the live stream again. Drop your questions, your comments, your feelings, your thoughts. Let's all complain or be happy together, depending on how the Blue Jays do in the next little bit here. But Carter, now that I've gotten through sort of the housekeeping stuff, I sort of called it evaluation day because we've jotted down a bunch of statistics, maybe to prove some of the points that we've talked about on other podcasts. So I want to start probably at the biggest topic that on everybody's mind. And that is, why in God's name is George Springer still hitting one? And we've had the conversation about moving Davis Schneider to 1. So what I want you to do off the start is go over George Springer's statistics. I want to get into a sort of a rebuttal with the Davis Schneider ones that I pulled.
All right. So if you've been listening to the podcast over the last week, 2 weeks, probably honestly the last month, we've been very negative about George Springer, and especially me. George Springer has been making me lose sleep at night. And for these stats, and well, because of George Springer's performance, but also because of John Schneider's just incapability to move him from the leadoff spot. So George Springer this season, in totality over the first couple weeks, first month of the season, George Springer is hitting .206 with 3 home runs and an OPS of .574. He has 7 extra base hits in 141 at-bats. That should just say enough as it is about how George Springer is playing. He's not really getting hits even. He has 4 doubles and 3 home runs. It's just not good. And also, if you have been watching the Blue Jays, you would know that Bo Bichette has been moved down to the 6th spot as of last game. Is that going to be a consistent thing? I guess we'll have to find out. But Bo Bichette's stats over the last 7 games, he has 26 at-bats with 3 hits, 0 home runs, 2 RBIs. He's batting .115 with an OBP of .179. Horrible all around. But looking at George Springer, this guy's still in the leadoff spot. In his last 7 games, he has 31 at-bats, 5 hits, which is 2 more than Bo, 0 home runs, 1 RBI, which is 1 less than Bo, batting .161, and has an OBP of .156. That is worse than Bo Bichette, and he is still leading off for this team. His hard hit percentage is in the 32nd percentile. He's hitting 138 sliders. I went over this in the last couple of weeks that George Springer can't hit sliders. He still can't hit sliders. The only good thing about George Springer right now does not come from the offensive side of the ball. It's because he is playing great defense. It seems like he's making a ton of diving catches. He just had one in that Phillies series. I think it was off of Kyle Schwarber. He has 2 outs above average, so he is good defensively. He's good on the base paths. But that doesn't matter when you're leading off for a baseball team. You got to be able to get on base.
Yeah, I 100%. I mean, we if you have eyes, you can see that, right? You know, everybody's watched baseball all their lives. Probably if you're coming to watch our podcast, probably you're a huge baseball fan and you know this. This is something that is just fundamental to baseball. You need your leadoff guy to get on base so that other people can drive him in. It's not a hard concept. So in saying that, I want to give you Davis Schneider's numbers. a guy that we've been battling to put in the number one spot probably almost all season long. In 94 plate appearances, he has 22 hits, 3 home runs, 13 RBIs, has been walked 12 times. He has a batting average of 275, an on-base percentage of 383. He's slugging a 475, and he's got an OPS of 858 all season long. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, that's pretty good. Is it amazing? Not amazing, but it's very, very solid and something that you could see from a leadoff hitter. But just wait. What has Davis Schneider done in the month of May? I know what you're thinking. Has it gone down? How has he been doing? Because we can't have a streaky guy. You're right, we can't have a streaky guy. Davis Schneider in the month of May has had 20 plate appearances, 5 hits, 5 walks, a total of 15 at-bats, so not including the walks, obviously. Batting a 333. He has only 1 RBI. His on-base percentage is 500 in the month of May. 500, and he's not leading off. He's not getting a ton of RBIs where he's hitting. Fair enough. Put him in the leadoff spot, and you don't have to worry about that. All you need him to do is get on base. And he's been showing you time and time again that he can do that. So, Carter, seeing those stats, are we crazy for thinking that he should be leading this team off?
Well, obviously, with such an analytically driven team, and you're looking at George Springer's stats, which are just absolutely popping off in the month of May. He has 27 at-bats, 5 hits. He has 6 strikeouts, an average of 185, an on-base percentage of 179. So obviously, those are very close to Davis Schneider. And with the eye test, obviously, they're both playing the exact same caliber of baseball. Obviously not. I have no idea why Davis Schneider is not leading off of this team. I don't even care as much if it's not Davis Schneider. Just get George Springer out of the leadoff spot. You could throw Kevin Kiermaier even in there at this point. I don't think that's the right play, but I would rather have that than the way George Springer is hitting the baseball right now. Davis Schneider, the way he's playing, you just went over his May stats. Again, we're only 9 days into May, but looking at the last 7 games, looking at the recency of this team is not winning baseball games. Why are you not giving the best player on your team right now at the plate the most at-bats? Why are you giving debatably the worst offensive player on your team the most at-bats every single day? You look at the stats, it's the most obvious decision of all time. You look and you watch the games, it's the most obvious decision of all time. Again, conspiracy theories are starting to pop up because it just doesn't make any sense. You look at all the analytics, you look at all the stats, you're trying to figure out a reason. There's just no viable reason to keep George Springer in that leadoff spot. And even Davis Schneider, he's not even playing every day still. He still has one of the lowest at-bats on the team, which is absolutely insane to me. George, I don't know what's going on. John Schneider might have a grudge against Davis Schneider, and he might just be in love with George Springer.
Yeah. There's a ton more guys we want to get into here, Carter. There's one guy that I think hasn't gotten the flowers for the way he's picked it up in the last little bit here, and I got to talk about him. Because it was something that, we made a point of saying that this guy has to be better. He has to be better for this team to do well. And that, of course, is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, I'm going to read his season stats first, and then I want to get into his month of May. And why am I looking at the month of May? Well, it's a little bit more of a condensed time frame. It shows how they've played in their last 5 or so games. And that's sort of where I'm looking. I want to see, who's starting to pick it up. But I will go over season stats first. 37 games played, 163 plate appearances, 4 home runs, 35 hits, 16 RBI, 20 walks, a batting average of 246, an on-base percentage of 344, and an OPS of 717. Now, I know what you think. Not the best, not the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. we need to see. And you'd be right. It's not the Vlad we want to see. But if you've watched from the start of the season till now, he's being a much different baseball player right now. So I want to go over his May stats. I'm going to get into that right now because it tells a little bit of a different story. Over the last 6 games in the month of May, he's had 27 plate appearances, 24 at-bats, 8 hits, 3 walks, 1 home run, 5 RBI. He's batting a 333. His on-base percentage is a 407. This is the Vlad we need. Yes, we'd love for him to, gain the power back and hit a couple more home runs, of course, but a guy that's hitting for average, that's getting on base, that's what this team needs right now. They need guys that can get on base and get a couple of hits because it doesn't seem like Bo Bichette or George Springer want to touch a baseball right now.
Yeah, Vladdy looks great at the plate. Again, I feel like people aren't going to be happy no matter if Vladdy could have a 600 average. If he's not going to hit 20 home runs, I don't think a lot of people are going to care. It's just the guy that was advertised. This guy had so much hype around him. He had so much pressure on him from such an early age as well. Obviously, with his dad being a great, unbelievable baseball player, having a very long and successful career. With Vladdy, his at-bats look way better recently.
Yeah.
He just came off of an 8-game hitting streak, lost it in the first game against the Phillies. What does this guy do? He goes 3 for 5 the next day, picks up right where he left off. It's finally nice to see at least one of our superstars like doing something, like literally just anything. Again, not exactly what we need from Vladdy. We would like some more power. But if he's going to get on base, he's going to keep the lineup going. Our problem right now isn't necessarily our depth. You have Davis Schneider, you have Ernie Clement, you have IKF, who's playing great baseball right now. A ton of guys, Danny Jansen, Justin Turner's cooling off a little bit, but he's still a very hard out. A ton of guys that can drive in runs, that can keep the lineup moving as well. So if Vladdy can just get on base, continue to hit the ball hard, which he has been doing a ton recently, which is always nice to see. Hopefully we get a little bit of a Vladdy bounce back and get that average a little bit higher up, start hitting the ball in the air a little bit more consistently, and start getting some power like the old Vladdy from 2021.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping to see, right? We're seeing him start to figure things out, and I think that's the biggest part of this. We can be as negative as we want, but you have to look at the past couple games. If you look at the season over a whole, of course, things aren't going your way. But as long as you're starting to see improvements, that's sort of where our mentality has to be now. Carter, moving away from Vlad, there's two guys that you said are sort of playing quite similar. I want you to get into them because I think this is another very interesting talk here.
Yeah, initially I was just going to get into IKF because I feel like IKF, just from the eye test, was playing very good baseball, having good at-bats. And I did a little bit of a deep dive into him. His last 7 games, he has 21 at-bats. He has a 286 average with 6 hits, 4 RBIs. This guy's going to produce that number from the position where he is, like what he got brought in to do, just to play good defense and put up an okay average. He's going to hit 286 and play elite defense. I am fully happy with that. IKF's looked great recently. He's one of the best contact hitters in the league. He doesn't hit the ball hard, unfortunately. He's actually in the first percentile, which one is being the worst in hard hit percentage, which is not great. But he is very high up in contact percentage, and that's just what he does. Another guy that caught my eye, just wanted to do a little bit of a check on him, is Ernie Clement. Ernie Clement this season has a 280 batting average, 7 hits, 4 RBIs, 1 home run. His expected is 296 with IKF being 286, so that's very close. IKF is 91st percentile in range. Ernie Clement is 84th percentile in range. Again, Ernie Clement's hard hit percentage, not great. It's in the 6th percentile, very similar to IKF. Very good defensively. Both IKF and Ernie Clement are pretty quick on the base paths, good base runners, and they can pretty much play wherever. You've seen Ernie Clement at second base. You've seen him at shortstop. You've seen him at third. You've seen IKF in the exact same positions. So I decided, I always forget that Ernie Clement is older than he actually is. I always feel like he should be 24, but he's not. So I did a little bit of a dive into the ages and the salaries as well. So Ernie Clement is 28 with IKF being 29. Again, with the similar profile, not being power hitters, being contact hitters, playing great defense. You kind of look into the specifics a little bit more. IKF making $7.5 million a year. Ernie Clement only making $757,700. I guess they wanted to throw the extra $700 in there. I'm sure Ernie Clement's pretty happy about that. And yeah, these two players are very similar. The only thing that is different is IKF's getting a ton more at-bats than Ernie Clement. I guess this guy is a veteran. He's a little bit more proven. Ernie Clement doesn't have as much service time in the MLB, but I thought it was very interesting how similar these two players were and how successful they've actually been for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, and that's the big part, right? Is that these guys might not be hitting, the hardest baseball of all time, hitting the home runs, but they're getting the job done that they were brought in to do. And I think we get caught up as Blue Jays fans in our superstars, which I guess you have to because it shows it, right? But at the end of the day, the depth on this team is doing exactly what they should be. It's just that your big guns aren't being able to drive them in, and that's the problem. Carter, before we sort of head into the pitchers here, I got one more guy that I just feel like has been under the radar all year, and maybe it's justified. So I want to get into his statistics, and that, of course, is Cavan Biggio, a guy that I feel like nobody's overly talking about. And maybe it's for the right reasons. You guys can decide for yourselves. I'll give you the statistics. it's not great. It's not great. Kevin Biggio, 29 games played, 93 plate appearances, 78 at bats, 16 hits, 1 home run, 6 RBIs, 9 walks, a batting average of 205, an on base percentage of 326, and an OPS of 621. Not great season stats, but it's Kevin Biggio, a guy that's obviously not in the lineup all the time. And then I went into his month of May. You can tell that not playing all the time is definitely hurting him. And it shows big time, to say the least. He's played 3 games, 5 plate appearances, 0 hits, 0 walks, 3 strikeouts. That's it. It's not been good. But a guy that's, again, not getting a ton of at-bats, it's hard to get into any type of routine. That's what we complained about with Davis Schneider and Henry Clement. But I think when you're comparing Davis Schneider to Kevin Biggio, is the upside is so much higher for Davis Schneider. But I wanted to give Kevin Biggio a little bit of screen time here since we don't talk about him too often. I thought since we were doing a deep dive into stats, we'd look at a guy maybe that we haven't talked about enough this year.
Yeah, Kevin Biggio is kind of in that tough situation where we have a million second/third baseman, a million utility guys, and there's just not enough room for Kevin Biggio. And seen it last season when Kevin Biggio was playing a ton at the end of last season. Again, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I want to say he was hitting around 280 for after the All-Star break. He looked really good defensively. He's diving all over the field, making great defensive plays. But when you have a guy like Davis Schneider, who's absolutely raking, Ernie Clement is making the most of his opportunities. And I just said that IKF going to provide the best defense out of all of these players. So if he's going to hit 286 in his last 7 games, I think you kind of have to roll with this guy. It's tough for Kevin Biggio. You said he played 3 games, only 5 at-bats. So that's clearly he's not even starting in some of these games. Probably only one of the 3. So it's going to be tough to succeed when you have 5 plate appearances in 9 days.
Yeah.
Again, like these guys are hitting on pitching machines. They are getting the work in, but it's a lot different facing live pitching compared to a pitching machine. Kevin Biggio, again, it's you can't really comment too much on him because it's not success from that role, or have success from that role. And also, I mean, you can't really blame Kevin Biggio for the offense. He's not getting at bats.
Yeah, no, 100%. We got a ton more to get into. We got a couple pitchers that we got to break down yet. We did our sort of the offense. Now it's time to do the pitchers and the defense here. So we want to get into that. We also We've seen a couple comments of what to do. What would a trade look like involving Alek Manoah? And I said I replied to a comment saying that I would do some looking. Me and Carter have both been sort of into a deep dive on what would be a realistic possibility here. And we went through a bunch. We're going to get into that as well next segment here. We're just going to take a quick break and be right back. This episode is brought to you by Stitch Fix. And you know what? I've seen them all around, all over the place. And now I sort of love them because I cannot stand shopping. I never know what to buy. I never know what to get myself. It's just horrible. And you know that instant confidence boost you get from a new outfit that makes you look good? That's what I get with Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. And that's the biggest part for me is I go shopping twice a year, and I pray that I'm just buying something that'll fit 9 outfits because I have no clue what to get. Easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new, on-trend favorites that will work for you. My stylist always sends me just right pieces, and the fit is on point. It's like they have the style. I just don't know how they do it, but they just get to me. And if you don't love something, just send it back. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/MLB and get $20 off your first fix. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $20 off. Stitchfix.com/locked/MLB. Must redeem within 7 days of sign up. New ads always gets me, but I sort of love it. I've told you, I think I'm gonna go heavy into this. Get a couple, get them to see what they can do with me. I have no idea. I don't know what to do with myself, Carter.
It's tough when you had your mom dressing you until you're 19 and then you had to move out. So I mean, it's tough to dress yourself now, right? So you gotta
I don't know.
Gotta get somebody else to fill that role.
I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I got like my 3 going out outfits and then a bunch of jerseys. That's about my wardrobe right now.
Yeah,
I think I've worn this Canucks jersey like 4 times in the past like week. So
I was gonna say whether it's a Canucks jersey or a Jays jersey, you throw on that and then a couple hats, and then there's your fit for the weekend.
that's the thing.
I don't hate it, honestly. I don't hate it. I can't hate on you.
I don't need help with buying hats. I only have about 30,000 here. I was gonna say 30,000. Holy moly. Math skills are just,
New
I'm
number there.
all into the statistics and
Brandon
I'm
Wasco approved. 30,000.
30,000 making stuff up now. We got some pitchers to get into here. Carter, I think I'm going to start with this one because I think a guy that had a rough start to the season and sort of has made a comeback, which I think that everybody thought he would. And of course, I'm talking about Kevin Gausman. This season, his statistics: 7 games played, 33 and a third innings pitched, 18 runs given up, only 14 earned runs, which I thought was kind of interesting. 4 home runs given up, 31 strikeouts. His home runs per 9 are 1.1. His hits per 9 are 9.5, which is a little bit on the high side for Kevin Gausman. His walks per 9 are 2.2. Pretty normal. Usually they're maybe a tad lower on his walks per 9, but I think that'll correct itself. His strikeouts per 9 at 8.4. I think that's pretty good for Kevin Gausman. But I wanted to get into his last 3 starts and overall the pitchers. I'm going to try to go into their last 3 starts. It sort of paints a better picture because guys start out slow, they get hot as the season goes on, and that's what we've seen from Kevin Gausman so far. In his last 3 starts, he's had 19 innings pitched, 15 hits. He's given up 4 runs, but only 1 earned run. 3 walks, 15 strikeouts, 1 home run. Carter, take a wild guess of what his ERA is through the last 3 games.
See, I'm not a math guy, but you said 19 innings pitched, only 1 earned run. So that would be probably around 0.6, something like that, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, that's a pretty good guess. It's 0.5, actually. So
maybe I am a math guy. Who knows?
Yeah, it was close enough. His hits per 9 through the last 3 games are 7.1. His home runs per 9 are a 0.47. His walks per 9 are a 1.4, and his strikeouts per 9 are a 7.1. This is the Kevin Gausman I'm used to seeing. Don't get me wrong. These are insane stats through the last 3 games, but he's played really, really well. And of course, we can't hope that he's going to continue this way through the entirety of the season, but this is getting closer too. I think when you look at the entirety of the season so far compared to the last 3 games, this is more closer to the Kevin Gausman we're all used to seeing. Carter, I know you have some pitchers to get into as well. And I mean, there's not much else we can talk about. We talked about Kevin Gausman a ton, all over this podcast. So I don't want to spend too much time diving deep onto him. Who else do you got for us?
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of dive into the bullpen here. So I'm going to start out with this by saying this bullpen is so depleted right now. There's so many injuries. This is one thing that a lot of Blue Jays fans probably didn't think would be a problem this season, but here we are with the bullpen having one of the worst ERAs in all of baseball. But saying that, Bowden Francis is out, Chad Green is out, Yimi Garcia is out, but hopefully he is back today against the Minnesota Twins. I'm throwing Yariel Rodriguez in here. I know it doesn't really count, but I don't know how this Alek Manoah, Yariel Rodriguez thing is going to work. If it was up to me, Yariel Rodriguez is going right back in there, but with Alek Manoah, this is a whole question mark. We'll get into that at a different time. But saying that, obviously some people need to pick it up. Eric Swanson tried to be one of those people, didn't work out too well. Henny Cabrera didn't work out too well. Tim Meza, another guy that's struggling. But like I said on the last episode, I kind of want to get more into the positives. And I'm going to start with this guy, a guy that debatably was on the release, kind of like the edge of the bullpen here, had the last spot, but he has more than earned his way back into high leverage situations at this point with our bullpen is made up. And that is the Silver Fox, Trevor Richards. This guy is an absolute beauty, just to say the least. His changeup is absolutely filthy. So I'm going to go over his last 7 games, and it's the last 7 games where he needed to be a really good reliever because you have all of these injuries and he needs to pick up the slack. So over the last 7, he has a 2.57 ERA over 7 innings pitched, 4 hits given up, 6 Ks, and a big one for Trevor Richards is 0 walks, not giving anyone free passes. So Trevor Richards is going into a little bit more advanced here. He has an expected batting average of just 0.180, which is the 94th percentile in the league, which 100 is the best. So that's pretty good. He's only a 2-pitch pitcher. He's throwing the changeup 63% of the time and the fastball at 37%. But his changeup, like I said, is absolutely disgusting. This is his money pitch. He has a .108 batting average on it. And to put it in perspective, I tried to get inches of drop and also horizontal break. So a lot of American viewers, Canadians, hopefully the inches, the systems aren't screwing up for you guys too much. But with Trevor Richards, his has an average drop on his changeup. Again, there is the mound, so you got to account for gravity as well. But 26 inches of drop average on his changeup, with 13 inches average of horizontal break. That's moving a ton. I don't care how tall the mound is. That's an insane pitch. And you can see it on the TV just absolutely drop off the face of the earth. That's what makes this guy so good. When that changeup is on, it is one of the hardest pitches in the league to hit. And that's why his fastball is not that good of a pitch, but it plays so well that changeup. When you're looking for that changeup and you're looking for it to drop off, and that fastball stays in there at the bottom of the zone, really tough to pick up. Use of the mound as his advantage as well, helping with that changeup drop. But absolutely insane from Trevor Richards. Just go over him in general before the bullpen injuries. He had a 3.18 ERA over 17 innings pitched, 18 Ks and 8 walks. What a player for this team in a time of desperate need in this bullpen.
Yeah, and you know what? He's played a huge role. He didn't maybe know going into this season what his role would look like this year, and he's taken full advantage of it. And you talked about the drop on the baseball and how hard that changeup is to pick up. And that's all the arm slot. You watch this guy, it's coming out the same way for both pitches. So it's an impossible pitch to pick up. It's just you're guessing at this point, which is why it works so well. Carter, I know you got another guy to get into in the bullpen. I wanted to bring up, though, another one of our starters in Yusei Kikuchi, one of our favorite players on this team. Carter, I'm shocked if you don't get a Yusei Kikuchi jersey at some point. I feel like that sort of just has to happen. Maybe all four of us will walk in with Yusei Kikuchi jerseys on the 17th there. But I want to go over his season stats and, of course, his last 3 games as well. But they both sort of speak to the same because he has been electric all season long. Yusei Kikuchi, 7 games played, 39 and 2/3 innings pitched, 37 hits, 12 runs, a 12 ERA, 12 earned runs against as well. So obviously every run that he's given up, it's been earned against them. 2 home runs, 9 walks, 43 strikeouts. His hit per nines for the season is 8.4. His home runs per 9 for the season is 0.5. His walks per 2, and his strikeouts per 9.8. This is peak Yusei Kikuchi. This is exactly the Yusei Kikuchi I maybe didn't expect, but the way he pitched, this is exactly, if you ever thought, what's Yusei Kikuchi look like at his absolute best, this is what it is. Lots of strikeouts, not a ton of walks, not giving up too many long bombs, but he'll give up a couple hits here and there. And that's exactly the Yusei Kikuchi I want to see. In his last 3 starts, Carter, 18 innings pitched. He's given up 20 hits, 7 runs, 7 earned as well, of course. 1 walk, 14 strikeouts, 1 home run. His hits per 9 went up in the last 3 games to 10. His home runs per 9 stayed at the 0.5, which I think is hilarious. His walks are at 0.5. So he dropped those big time as well in the last 3 starts. And strikeouts per 9 were at 7. Those dropped off a little bit as well. But he is sitting exactly where I want Yusei Kikuchi to sit. As our 4th quote-unquote starter, he's been absolutely money for this squad this year.
Yeah, and this isn't going to be a shot at Chris Bassett, but I honestly feel like I'm more comfortable with Yusei Kikuchi, just what he's done so far this season, than Chris Bassett. But Chris Bassett has been very good as well. One thing I've noticed with Yusei Kikuchi, and the stats back this up as well, is he's throwing his curveball a whole lot more this season. So last season, he threw the curveball 19.9% of the time. This season, he is throwing it 29.6% of the time, so 10% more than he was throwing it. At times this year, it looked like he was struggling to locate a slider, and obviously it is nice to have another pitch with him having one of the hardest left-throwing arms in the league. You can get another pitch, a breaking pitch to kind of fall off a cliff, sort of like the Trevor Richards changeup. It's going to work out pretty well for you, and that curveball has been looking great so far. I love when Yusei Kikuchi is confident on the mound, especially when it's 2 outs and he thinks he dots a corner. Even if he doesn't get it, the little strut he gets off the mound, just kind of like a screw you to the batter at the plate. Such an electric guy to watch. The only negative thing I have to say about Yusei Kikuchi is he's a free agent this year. I don't know if the Blue Jays are going to be able to fork over the money that this guy deserves. You got to think over the last season and so far how he's performed this season, he's probably going to get a decent bag. He is getting a little bit up there in age, but that's going to be something that I worry about later on. Let's just enjoy Yusei Kikuchi while we have him and his dominance on the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think that was sort of in the back of everybody's mind. I think me and you've had a conversation about what happens after this season if you say Kikuchi, and maybe further on to the season, we're going to have a bigger conversation on that and what we end up doing. But I think, with the way this season's going so far, that might have to be a conversation of a lot of guys. But Carter, you have one more guy in the bullpen before we get into, of course, the promised Alek Manoah possible trade.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go over one main guy. I'm just gonna throw a quick shout out to this guy. I love Zach Pop, and he's showing it with the stats. I mean, again, this guy's in AAA. Normally, that's where he spends most of his time, but he comes up in a time of need and does great. He has a 1.93 ERA over 4 2/3 innings pitched. I know that's not a huge sample size, but I love watching this guy's sinker. One thing this is a good comparison. It's not gonna sound like it because you don't want to be compared to Alek Manoah. Their sinkers move a ton. When you're watching Alek Manoah start, his sinker, you could tell on TV, he was moving a ton. Zach Pop, the same thing, sitting at 97. So I just wanted to throw a quick shout out to Zach Pop. But the guy I'm going to focus on, hopefully, like I said, mentioned before in this episode, hopefully he is back today, the day that we release this podcast, and that is Yimi Garcia. This guy has been an absolute dog to start the season. He has a .68 ERA with over 13 and a third innings pitched, 16 Ks, 3 walks. He's given up 1 run this year. That was all the way back against the Mariners on April 8th. Just absolutely insane. Again, he was injured for a little bit, so you got to take that into account. But he is in the 99th percentile in chase percentage, with 100 being the best. Is that good? You tell me. K percentage of almost 40%, which is the 95th percentile. Just absolutely insane stuff from Yimi Garcia. This guy has 6 pitches. He's like a starting pitcher coming out of the bullpen. Absolutely insane. We need this guy back badly. We need a high leverage pitcher that can get outs and not make me want to have a heart attack every single time I watch the pitch. A little shot at Jordan Romano there. I know he gets saves, but just have to throw it out there. But Yimi Garcia, I'm excited to hopefully see him back for the first game of the Twins series.
Yeah, he's an electric guy to watch. I mean, I know he's been one of your favorites. I sort of don't always pay attention to how good everybody's doing over the season. I knew you were very high on him, so I went into the stats. Oh my goodness, he's just been electric. I went back and watched some of his outings. He is so fun to watch too. Carter, everything's coming to a head right now. I don't honestly know what to say about this because we've talked about an Alek Manoah trade and what happens in a situation where we have to trade him. I don't know if now is the time. He didn't look good. He did not look good again in his, rejoining of the team. We had a couple comments asking us, what does an Alek Manoah trade look like? And honestly, I didn't know what to say at the time. So I just put a comment out there saying, okay, you know what? We're going to get into it. We're going to do a deep dive. We're going to try to figure out what is a realistic move right now. And there's a ton out there. There's a ton out there talking about Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez. I think there was a couple other ones.
Marlins fire sale that's going on. Pretty much any good player from that team could be heading to any team, honestly.
Yeah. So we kept looking around. There was a couple guys sort of on my mind that I was thinking of. And I think it was like 2 years ago, I said to Dallin Wilton, who will eventually get on this podcast as well. Right. I said to him a bunch of years ago saying that I really, really like this underrated player in Lars Nootbaar. And then we were sort of discussing today about what an Alek Manoah trade could look like. And Carter said, what do you think about Lars Nootbaar? I said, I love Lars Nootbaar. So then we had the discussion. We went into it. We thought, okay, what would this look like? Carter, I'm going to throw it to you. Lars Nootbaar.
Yeah, so Lars Nootbaar going over this season, a guy that's underperforming a little bit here. Again, it is still fairly early on, but his season stats so far, 82 at-bats. He has 15 hits, batting average of .183. 8 RBIs, nothing too crazy here, but he has a career batting average of .240. So a guy that is underperforming a little bit here. He is only 26. And the reason that this does make sense is just due to their ages and the years of control. So obviously St. Louis, I almost said Blues hockey, St. Louis Cardinals would receive Alek Manoah. I think straight up, Lars Nootbaar for Alek Manoah trade probably doesn't go too well for the Jays. They probably laugh in our faces. So I decided to throw in Chad Dallas, who is the 15th ranked pitching prospect on this team. And then just kind of a random throw in. This could be anyone, just kind of in between the 20th and 35th prospect. But I decided to go with Sam Shaw, second baseman / outfielder that can replace Lars Nootbaar maybe in a few years. But the reason this makes sense is Lars Nootbaar is 26. Alek Manoah is also 26. Lars Nootbaar has 4 years of team control, including this year. Same with Alek Manoah. So 2 guys that are underperforming with their respective teams. The only thing with this trade, and the reason that I don't think the Toronto Blue Jays should trade Alek Manoah, is because Lars Nootbaar has never had a season where he's been, like, mind you, top 30 in MVP voting. Where you have Alek Manoah, a top 3 finisher in Cy Young voting, only 2 years ago, which it feels like forever because we have not seen this guy be effective on the mound in a very long time at the MLB level. And I'm sure there would be a few teams that would be more than willing to take a flyer on Alek Manoah, a team that can develop him, maybe catch that fire he had going for him in 2022. But Lars Nootbaar heading our way, we do need a right fielder, left fielder, and pretty much anywhere. Lars Nootbaar can play either side. So this would be one that I could see. Again, I don't love it for the Toronto Blue Jays. I'd rather just have Alek Manoah stay in the minor leagues, hopefully figure it out, because this guy's trade value is probably down in the dumps. Again, I'm not a manager in the MLB. I'm not sure how other MLB teams view this guy, but based off just watching this guy pitch, it has not been good. He has no command. Is that something a pitching staff or pitching coach think they can fix with Alek Manoah? Maybe, but that would be a situation that I'm not sure how willing they would be to able to deal with that, or if they would want to deal with Alek Manoah and that personality.
Yeah, and that's the tough part, right? Like we talk and we theorize about trades, and that's why we haven't done a big thing on Alek Manoah, and because it's the likelihood of anything happening with him, I think, is very slim to none. But it was an interesting topic that somebody brought up in our comments. So I thought, okay, you know what? Yeah, we've heard of some of the big names that, okay, we could do this for Alek Manoah, and you got to package this guy and this guy and this guy. Well, that's ridiculous and sort of not going to happen. So we did a serious look. And this is a deal that we think is pretty realistic, that is a possibility. Do the Jays do it? I doubt it, honestly. We've had conversations about the Blue Jays just wanting to hold on to him and pray to God that he figures it out eventually. But we'll see what happens. We got a series preview to get into as we go into the weekend, and it's against the Twins. I think this is something, a sort of prove it moment, right? The Blue Jays coming off a win that sort of was a little bit of a shock to everybody, I think. Now it's the time to carry it through. So we're going to get into that right after this quick break.
Just before we do head into the break, I wanted to head over to the Locked On 24/7 streaming channel. I give you the opportunity pretty much every podcast, and it seems like with every time you fail to mention this, it's a good thing I'm here to step in. Locked On Sports Today, Amazon Fire TV channel app, expert analysis. What more could you want? Perfect opportunity, even if you just leave it on in the background of your house. I know I like having background music while I'm doing chores, stuff like that. You don't have to be paying attention to it every single time, but I would advise you guys to watch it as much as you can because there's great analysis on there. And we're going to move into a series preview coming up.
Today's episode is brought to you by Policy Genius. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and void unnecessary medical exams. I know I've taken a good hard look at this. Looked through Policy Genius to try to figure out what is the best option for my family, my parents, my grandparents, and etc. Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. They easily compare quotes from America's top insurances in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Your work-life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. Even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Policy Genius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. They have no incentives to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. Thousands of 5-stars reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who have found the best fit for their needs. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedon or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonMLB.
Today's episode is also sponsored by DoorDash. This Mother's Day, get something thoughtful for mom on DoorDash. Surprise her from wherever you are with fresh bouquets, the latest tech, gift cards, self-care treats, and more to make her day that much better. Get thoughtful gifts she deserves with the convenience you need. Choose same-day delivery or schedule a week ahead for when flowers and gifts should arrive to her door with DoorDash. I know I've said this once on the podcast. Again, I gotta hope my mom isn't listening to this, but I do have a Mother's Day gift planned out, but I'm also going to send her a fresh bouquet of flowers. She loves surprises, so I got it scheduled for that Sunday morning. So I'm hoping that she's going to like it. I'm sure she will. She's a big flower girl. So I love that I have the opportunity to do this with DoorDash. You can get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place and get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with code LOCKEDONMLB. That's code LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply.
All right, we know it's been a long episode. We've had a ton to go over. There's stuff that we've saved, that we've thought about for a long time, that we've had to put together. This episode took us a little bit of research because there is a lot of statistics. I hate saying statistics because I'm not a statistics guy, and then we have a full statistics episode, of course. Jap is going to not let that one go, I bet. He's going to love it. But we're playing the Twins. The Blue Jays got the Twins for a 3-game set. And Carter, like I've said before, I think this is a big moment for this team. They've got a little bit of momentum. They played a pretty decent game against the Phils in that second game. Now they have to use that momentum to carry them forward. Will they do it? Some of the pitching matchups are a little bit interesting. Carter, I'll throw it over to you to go over since I know you got all that on lock.
Yeah, so I don't know if you could say the Blue Jays are picking up momentum. I guess you could say from that one
I don't
game.
know. They need something at this point. I don't know.
Just trying to throw some positiveness about the Blue Jays in the world. I can respect that. Before I do go into the pitching matchups, the Twins just absolutely annihilated the Mariners today, 11-1. So that's great for us to have the Minnesota Twins coming off of that.
Talk about momentum.
Yeah, talking about momentum is right. The Twins are 15-2 since April 22nd. I mean, they did play the White Sox, the Angels, the White Sox again. But then they played the Red Sox, the Mariners. I mean, we did beat the Mariners 2-1, but that was way back when the bullpen was pitching a little bit better. The Blue Jays, looking at their record since April 22nd, they are 5-11. And you can't really say too much about the Twins beating bad teams when the Blue Jays just lost a series to the Washington Nationals. Yeah. So in that sense, momentum definitely in the Twins' favor, but saying that, there are some good pitching matchups for us here. The Twins got Joe Ryan going on the Friday game. He's obviously a great pitcher. He's only 1-2 this year, so a little bit unlucky, but a 3.54 ERA. And then we got the guy that you were hyping up, I was hyping up, one of our favorite players on the Toronto Blue Jays, Yusei Kikuchi. Don't have to go into how awesome that guy is. That's going to be a pitching duel. The Saturday matchup makes for a very interesting matchup because we have Kevin Gausman going. That's awesome. But if some Blue Jays fans remember, Simeon Woods Richardson is pitching for the Twins, and that guy was involved in the trade for the Toronto Blue Jays. That was with Jose Barrios, actually. So this guy's pitching this first year. He's kind of pitching a full time in the major leagues. And so far, it's going pretty well. He's got a 1.74 ERA. I want to see the Blue Jays absolutely carve this guy and rake off of him. I want 8 runs. I want 10 runs. I want 15 runs. Realistically, I want 5 runs. Let's get 5 because I don't really expect a lot from this Blue Jays offense. But moving on, that's going to be a huge game that I'm going to be keeping my eye on for the Sunday. We have Alek Manoah. That is going to be something. And they have Bailey Ober. This guy has a 4.42 ERA. Alek Manoah's ERA is horrible. I'm not even going to say what it is. Braden, I'm going to give it back to you. What do you think of the Blue Jays going to do this weekend?
Well, it's time to give my prediction, Carter. I'm going to take this time to give my prediction because I got something to say. All right? Game 1, all the faith in the world goes to our man, Yusei Kikuchi. I'm saying the Blue Jays win this game. I'm thinking they're coming off that. We're starting to see a little bit of production from Vlad. I could see them taking this game. The next game, Kevin Gausman versus the guy we gave up.
Richardson.
Yeah. And you know what? This would be the day. You said 5. Where are they playing? Rogers Center, baby. 6 in the 6. This is the day. All right? I'm telling you, the Blue Jays win this game with Kevin Gausman. Maybe, I'm going to say he's giving up 2 runs or less, and the Blue Jays win this ball game. Then I have zero faith in Alek Manoah, so toss that game out the window. The Blue Jays win this series 2-1 is my final prediction with a win in the first 2.
I feel like that's a little bit of a cop-out answer. I feel like that is, if you were just going to bet on these games, it's probably what you're going to pick.
I'm going to bet on these games. That's exactly what this is. Yeah.
All right. So I got with this matchup, Joe Ryan, Yusei Kikuchi. I'm not worried about Yusei Kikuchi, but this guy's gotten screwed over so many times in the past. So I got the Toronto Blue Jays losing the first game, unfortunately. If we lose to Simeon Woods Richardson after this Barrios trade, I'm going to lose
that's how
my
you say it.
mind. Oh, that's what you were struggling with?
Yeah, I
Okay.
couldn't
was
couldn't
wondering.
remember how to say the first name.
Oh, I need, for just my sanity, a win from Kevin Gausman. I think the Blue Jays probably get beat decently bad in the Friday game. I think they're going to score like maybe one run, maybe if we're lucky. So Kevin Gausman, they're going to find the offense a little bit there. And I'm going to go against everything, all the analytics. I'm going to pull a John Schneider here, and I'm going to say we win on Sunday. Alek Manoah has a good enough day to keep us in the game. The bullpen actually has a good day as well. We get to over. I'm going to go 2-1 in a little bit of a different fashion, a little bit of a crazier way to get to that 2-1 series prediction. But I'm just quickly going to go over our last Phillies prediction. Taking a step back, I know we got killed 10-1, but if you look at this series, this Phillies series, such a good team. If you would have told me at the start of the season, you're looking at this date, we're going to split with the Phillies, I'm taking that every day of the week. Don't really care how the results are. We're going to be in June, July, August. We're going to look back at this Phillies series and we're going to say, hey, at least we won a game. So I'm all right with that. Me and you tried to ride together with this to will the Toronto Blue Jays to a series tie. We ended up doing that, but we just got the games in inverse. We had a win the first game and a loss the second game. Obviously, that was flipped. So now we were at 21-21. Now it's 22-22. So obviously, we don't ever plan these predictions out. We have no idea what each other are going to say. I'm starting to kind of read you like a book, though, because you always seem to go with the cop-out answers. But
come on,
saying that is probably what most people would say, so I can't hate on you too much. But this is going to change up a little bit. We'll see what happens with this series. Before we do head out, I just want to say thank you guys for watching. We are heading out to Toronto in a week from today, actually, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Jesus.
Coming up very quickly. We got a countdown, obviously, for our roommate. He set that up, which is awesome. It's gonna get here so fast. It's gonna be like I'm gonna go to bed and it's gonna be Friday morning. We're gonna be off to Toronto, and I'm so excited for it.
Well, for you got a week off. He's done school. He's waiting for work to start. He's got a week off. He's gonna get in some golf. Me, I'm sitting out there grinding a 1:30 to 9:30 p.m. shift, and this week feels like it's taken 8 years off my life.
Hey, half of these games you're going over. You're doing Jets games. You're watching the Jets games. They're obviously not in the playoffs anymore. So I mean, you could have a lot worse of a job here.
Yeah, absolutely, I could.
But saying that with my golf, I know the viewers that are on podcasting platforms can't see this, but I'll throw it up for the people on YouTube. I don't know how well you can see it. I got quite a glove tan going on from golf. I'm burnt and then I'm just pale. It's not great. It looks like I was wearing an oven mitt on the course today. I don't know how it looks this bad, but it's such a defined line. Absolutely insane. Saying that, thanks for all the support. Before we do head out, I want to throw over one more time to the Locked On 24/7 streaming channel, Amazon TV or Fire TV channels app, or the Locked On Sports Today channel. Either one, perfect opportunity to check out sports 24/7. Brayden, you got anything else to add before we head into the weekend?
No, I'm pumped. You know what? I have a good feeling about this Blue Jays weekend here. That's why I said the 2-1. I'm praying to God they can get something done. I'm honestly just trying to I just want Toronto to be here. I'm so pumped for that trip. I think we're going to have a ton of fun. We're going to get a bunch of content. I can't wait to get back on the live streams. That's going to be so much fun. Make sure you guys tune in. We said probably 45 minutes to an hour after the game will be live on YouTube. So make sure you guys all tune into that. It should be live on all the platforms, actually. So even if you're listening in the car or anything like that, you should be able to just throw it right on. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us out. And check us out on Twitter's, Instagram, TikToks, wherever you can find us. Appreciate you guys watching.